Minister, CEO, and all of our dear delegates and guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to all of you, and welcome to our 2016 APrIGF Taipei, the Asia Pacific Regional Internet Governance Forum. Our theme, as you can see right up here, is a new internet era, merging physical space with cyberspace. Our forum is from July the 27th, from today until the 29th. Some of you are here with us yesterday already. Okay, now, my name's Andy. I'm at your service as your MC, and I would like to take some time now to introduce our VIP guests. So please join me in giving them a round of warm applause, and please, when introduced, wave your hand. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Chair of Multi-Stakeholder Steering Group of APrIGF, Mr. Paul Wilson, with our applause. Director General of APNIC. Welcome, sir. Welcome to Taiwan. And ladies and gentlemen, we've just welcomed him, but let's welcome him again. Our Minister from the Ministry of Transportation and Communication, Mr. He Chen Dan. Minister He Chen. Good morning, sir. And of course, welcoming our local host, our host of 2016 APrIGF Taipei, Mr. Guo Wei Wu, our CEO of NII, Enterprise Promotion Association. Morning, sir. And of course, welcoming Mr. Marcus Coomer, with our applause, please, right here. Board of ICANN. And Miss Susan Pointer. Please welcome her with our applause. She's the Head of Public Policy and Government Relationship, Asia Pacific Google Inc. I'm sure she's going to be with us very soon. Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, the list goes on. We have a list of VIP. Please bear with me. Welcoming from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Secretary General, Mr. Zhang Wenliang. Please. And from the Ministry of Interior, our Deputy Minister, Administrative Deputy Minister, Lin Ziliang, with our applause. Miss Lin, good morning. And from Taipei City Government, please welcome from the Department of Information Technology, Director General, Mr. Li Weibin. Morning, sir. And last but not least, from the Ministry of Science and Technology, Department of Engineering and Technologies, we have Director General Liao Wanjun joining us here today. Okay, I'm sure there are many more VIP, but we have limited time, so my apologies for not introducing you. Moving on, please join me in welcoming the welcoming remarks, the Chair of Multi-Stakeholder Steering Group of APrIGF, Mr. Paul Wilson. Director General of APNIC, for the opening remarks. Good morning, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's quite a welcome. I appreciate it. And it's a great honor to be here for the 7th Asia Pacific Regional IGF meeting, the APrIGF as we call it. It seems a long time, but actually a short time since we were last here since we were first here at the APrIGF in Hong Kong in 2010. So this is the 7th. I'm very happy to be here and to have seen some incredible growth and participation in the event since 2010. Last year in Macau, we thought it was pretty good with more than 400 registrations, but this time we've got more than 600, I think. So that's a fantastic record. We keep on moving up and up. My sincere thanks to the hosts, to the Ministry of Transportation and Communication, the MOTC, also to NIPA, the National Information Infrastructure Enterprise Promotion Association, and in particular to Guo Wei Wu, of course. But I'd like to recognise also Minister He Chen. Thank you very much. Secretary General Cheng as well. Thank you for being here. And as we heard, a long list of other VIPs that we probably don't have time to mention individually. But thank you sincerely for being here. This event is supported by the .Asia Corporation. So thank you very much to our friends at .Asia, Yanis and Maggie and Edmund, who provide the Secretariat service, to co-chairs on the Multi-Stakeholder Steering Group, Chester and Arun as well. The APrIGF has been discussing important internet governance issues now for, as I say, 7 years or more. And by important, I don't mean just important, in my opinion, but demonstrably important issues that have to go through quite a process before they end up in this event. We have an open call for proposals. Community members come, they bring their ideas. Those proposals are reviewed and vetted by the multi-stakeholder steering group, and then there's quite a bit of work in bringing them onto the floor of this meeting. So we have really several key issues, key topics that have been the subject of a lot of work here. Those themes over the years have included cybersecurity, access and connectivity, accessibility, universality and multilingualism, youth and human rights, and the multi-stakeholder internet governance model itself. Under that banner, we've held some very important discussions recently over two important topics here, the IANA stewardship transition and also the recent WSIS +10 process, which concluded last year. Now, the first of those topics, the IANA stewardship transition, over the last 2 years, the global internet community, including all stakeholders, has worked hard and succeeded in developing a transition plan for the IANA function to move it out from the single stewardship of the US government into the multi-stakeholder internet community. And Kuo Wu actually gave a great presentation about that yesterday, which I hope some of you would have seen. But that was an extraordinary voluntary effort of community members working together on an unprecedented scale. It was a sort of global cooperation in the internet way, and something that's very important as well was that the voices of the Asia Pacific were quite prominent in that process as well, both individually and through organisations, and also thanks, I think, to the APrIGF. So we're talking about that event, that process some more during this week, and we're looking forward to the final success, that is the transition coming up in September this year. We hope and we have our fingers crossed for that, because it will be quite a momentous occasion when it does happen. Now, the second topic, the 10-year review of the World Summit on Information Society, was also very important. And we passed an important milestone last year, which was the 10th IGF meeting, which was held in Brazil. And that was followed by the conclusion of the WSIS +10 review process. And that also was a success. The Brazil meeting was the 10th, and that was the second 5-year mandate, but the WSIS +10 process actually approved the IGF to continue for a full 10 years further. And that's a great thing. It's a great proof that IGF is recognised as a success, but it also represents quite a challenge to us in this community, because we now need to keep building and improving the IGF to make sure it remains vibrant and successful. And that next 10 years of effort starts here today for us in this community. So I hope we all see both the success and the challenge of that. So it's not actually just the subjects of the APrIGF that make it important, that make it work. It's how those discussions actually happen. The essence of the APrIGF under our organisational principles is openness, transparency and multi-stakeholder cooperation. And each of our meetings, each of these events is a demonstration of the value that comes from the many voices and different perspectives from this region that are heard and that can be shared throughout the world through the IGF process. So to me, it's very clear from the fantastic turnout here that we're continuing the process here in Taipei. We've got a really rich program. We've got very healthy attendance. We've got a great deal of enthusiasm, I think, which is coming into this event. And I really would like to thank everyone again for being involved and being here. So to finish, I hope you find value, a lot of value, during the next 3 days. I hope that you'll take some of that home with you, and that you'll also bring it back in a new form into the next APrIGF and into the IGF process to close that loop and really make this a vital part of the internet ecosystem for the next 10 years. So thank you in advance for those efforts which are coming, and again, thank you very much for being here. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Paul Wilson. Thank you. Please be seated, so we know what to do for the next 10 years now. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Minister from the Ministry of Transportation and Communications, Minister He Chen, to address us. Please welcome, with our applause, Minister He Chen Tan.
Thanks for the warm applause. Good morning, Chairman and attendees from around the world. The Ministry of Communication and Transportation is honored to host the 2016 Asia-Pacific Regional Internet Governance Forum. On behalf of our governments, I welcome you all to Taiwan. The progress of Taiwan's ICT industry has been recognized by the world. Currently, we have over 20 million mobile broadband subscribers, which accounts more than 86% of Taiwan's population. As in other countries, the internet has merged with all aspects of our lives. One of the most discussed internet governance topics recently is the IANA stewardship transition, as Chairman just mentioned. This past March, ICANN sent the US government NTIA a proposal regarding the technical performance of IANA functions as well as enhancements to ICANN's accountabilities. Taiwan joins the world in supporting and welcoming the multi-stakeholders model to create a new development for the internet. Last month, the United Nations Human Rights Council passed a resolution to expand basic human rights to the online world. In this non-binding resolution, the UN encouraged all states to protect privacy online, as online privacy is crucial for the realization of the right to freedom of expression. Privacy protection is essentially important in this IoT connected world. Our government continues to pursue economic development and national security while simultaneously respecting our commitment to privacy protection. I'm glad to see that security, privacy, and human rights are the most discussed topics at APrIGF meetings in Taipei. I hope that we will learn and share our experiences on these topics at this event. For most people across the Asia-Pacific region, the internet is the essential part of their lives. Their livelihood, health, education, and much more greatly rely on the internet, which is always on and available. However, many people are still unconnected. As a member of Global Village, we consider this is our mission to bring connectivity to those unconnected. From 2004 to 2014, Taiwan initiated the APEC Digital Opportunity Center program and has reached its goal to bridge the digital divide in several APEC economy. Our 10 years hands-on experiences are precious. We, the government, together with our private sector, civil society, and partners in the Asia-Pacific region, will continue our effort to promote internet capacity building. Last of all, on behalf of governments, I would like to thank all the members of the APrIGF Multi-Stakeholders Committee for their support, all attendees for their participation, and all co-organizers for their dedication. I hope we will have a fruitful and successful forum this year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister He Chen, from the Ministry of Transportation and Communications. Thank you so much for your opening remarks. Minister, thank you. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, as we can see now, the screen is coming down because our next speech is not in person, it is by video. This is addressed from our chief guest, Dr. Vint Cerf. as many of you know him, as the father of internet, global internet. Okay, so we will be having a speech by video right now. He's widely known as the father of internet, served as the co-designer of TCP/IP protocols and the architecture of the internet. No wonder he's called the father. And back in the year December 1997, okay, here we go. 请播放 VCR.
Hello, my name is Vince Cerf. I'm Google's chief internet evangelist, and I'm sorry that I can't join you at the Asia Pacific region IGF this year. However, I do appreciate an opportunity to say a few things to you about the importance of the IGF meeting and also the subject matter that you're likely to be discussing. As I'm sure all of you know, the Internet's been around now and in operation for over 30 years. It was designed over 40 years ago, but it's still evolving pretty dramatically. Smartphones have changed the landscape significantly, giving access to Internet from almost everywhere. And of course now we're faced with the Internet of Things, appliances of all kinds that are programmable and are part of the Internet communications environment. This opens up a whole new landscape for applications, but it also opens up many, many questions about safety and security and privacy, interoperability among the various components, just an endless collection of questions and opportunities. These are some of the things that you're going to have to wrestle with during the IGF meeting. You know, how should we position our international relations? How should we deal with standards? How should we deal with privacy and safety in this increasingly and potentially fragile or brittle environment? Dependence on software has its upsides and its downsides. The downside being that there may be bugs in the software or it may not operate the way you expect. You may get emergent properties that nobody anticipated, but which may have deleterious effects in addition to possible beneficial effects. So these are among the things that I hope you'll take time to think about and to talk about, discuss, and to share with the rest of us some of the conclusions or at least some of the ideas that you uncovered during the period that you meet at the IGF. So although I can't see you in person, I hope we'll cross paths on the net.
Okay,
Hello.
thank you. Okay, I believe that's it. Thank you so much. That was the address by our chief guest, Dr. Vince Cerf, by video. We'll let him know about the applause. Okay, thank you so much. And now moving on, please welcome our local host of 2016 APrIGF Taipei, Asia Pacific Regional Internet Governance Forum Taipei, Mr. Guo Wei Wu. Mr. Wu, our CEO of NII, Enterprise Promotion Association.
Before that, let me tell you a story. When I asked Vince coming for the speech, he said I cannot do it because you only give me 3 months in advance. So I say, then you can do the video. And Vince say, how long for the video? I say, what about 20 minutes? And Vince say, 20 minutes video should be very boring. So he say, what about 3 minutes? So let's how the video coming. Okay, first of all, to represent the local host, I welcome all of you fly a long way to Taipei. And it's really surprised me because when I bid APrIGF, the IP say supposedly should be 250 to 300 people. But it surprised me we are more than 500 to 600 registered. But we have another room for this account opening. So first of all, I'd like to say some words. The first is, for many of you maybe know, the internet governance, in my mind, cover 2 things. One is the scope, another one is mechanisms. The scope is any topic or any issue is developing because of the internet. Just as Vincent said, the internet innovation bring positive and negative. And so there is so many issues and topics. It remains us to resolve and to discuss. And in a narrow definition, we're talking about internet governance. It's INA, it's IP address, domain name, and root server. But general scope is more than that. As we face today, from text to e-commerce, to Uber, to Airbnb, many things, even for, the right for forgotten. But I think it's more important, particularly for Asia-Pacific regions, is mechanisms. Because the mechanism is not very familiar with Asia-Pacific, particularly Oriental cultures. It's a multi-stakeholder mechanisms. We get used to be very monotone, single channel. We are not get used to be a multi-stakeholder to come up with the solutions. So from my personal point of view, the multi-stakeholder mechanism is the most important thing for Asia Pacific, particularly Oriental culture. We have to learn. We have to, learn from others to developing the mechanisms. And here I think we really enjoy. We have more than 30 workshops, more than 100 speakers. And of course, we are looking for Marcus Krumer to tell us what is the next 10 years for the IGF. And we also like to hear, the Susan Pointer to tell us how the internet for everyone. Because we still have many people missing in the internet. But the last thing I like to particularly thanks for many people to make this meeting really happen. Of course, first of all, I'd like to thank my Minister Hurton. Without his budget support, we cannot run the conference successfully. So thanks, Hurton Minister. You give us the money, the most important resources. The second, I like to thank a lot of foreign, institutions to give me the sponsorships to support more than 20 fellows fly from all over the world to Taipei. That is including Google's, including the ISOC, the headquarters, including APrIGF, ICANN, and IGF foundations. Without their sponsorships, we cannot support 20 plus fellows to fly here to participate in this important event. I also like to thank the local sponsorships. Without them, we cannot make a successful meeting too. The first of all is the Zhonghua Telecoms. Zhonghua Telecom provide us the internet access in this convention center. And also, the most important one is just a new listing. It's a Line. It's a very popular chatting software or social media in Asia. Line gives us the financial support. Again, the local Google to support us the money, so we can have an event in the Google office in their buildings. And more than that is Net Chinese. And then also the Taipei city government, they hosting us in this beautiful city. So I think this is, I like to say, thanks for all the sponsorships. I also particularly need to say thanks for APrIGF Secretary, led by Diasia Emanchong and Jennifer, Maggie, and also Yanni. Without them, actually, we cannot coordinate everybody together. And particularly, I have to say, to thank my colleague. I didn't do anything, to be honest. My colleague do all the work. So if you want to thank the NIPA, you should thank my colleague. I have many colleagues was here. Sophia and Lynn, Sean, and many of them is make this meeting really successful. So let me, as a local host, welcome you and hope we have a wonderful meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you to our local host, Mr. Guo Wei-wu. Mr. Wu, please stay for the group photo. And now we do the group photo, please. Welcoming back our local host, Mr. Guo Wei-wu, and of course, our minister from the Ministry of Transportation and Communications, Minister He Chen. Please join us for the group photo. And of course, our chair, Mr. Paul Wilson, chair of Multi-Stakeholder Steering Group of APrIGF. Please join us for the group photo on stage. And of course, Mr. Marcus Coomer, Board of ICANN. Please do so joining us. And just joining us, Ms. Susan Pointer, Head of Public Policy and Government Relations from Asia Pacific Google Incorporated. Please join us for the group photo. We're going to be conducting two parts of the group photo. This is group photo part 1, okay? So this is our photographer, Leo. He's going to be taking our photo along with Patty. Okay, so a big smile to kick off our forum. And bit of a help, please. Our applause. Thank you. 2016 Asia Pacific Regional Internet Governance Forum begins now. Minister, how about thumbs up for the future of internet? All right? Yes. Okay. Once again, our applause. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. Minister and CEO Mr. Wu, now group photo part 2, okay? Please join us from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Secretary General Mr. Zhang Wenliang. Please stay, please stay. Group photo 2 is another group of guests, plus those of you who are already on stage. Please welcome from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Secretary General Mr. Zhang Wenliang, from the Ministry of Interior, Deputy Minister Lin Ziliang, and Taipei City Government, Department of Information Technology, Director General Li Weibin, and last but not least, from the Ministry of Science and Technology, Director General Liao Wanjun. This is group photo part 2. Okay, thank you so much for joining our group photo. Please, our photographer right there, big smile, cheese. All right, and our applause. Thank you. Should we do the thumbs up again? Thumbs up again, okay. Thumbs up for the future of internet. We're looking at the next 10 years. All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Thank you for your group photo. Please be seated. Thank you so much. Okay, the projector screen is coming down again right now because we have a few video clips to show everyone. We've just heard, well, we've just seen the father of Internet Global, Dr. Vint Cerf, and now we're going to see another video clip from Jun Hurai-san. He's the father of Internet from Japan, okay? He's going to be speaking to us via video as well.
Weeks passed since Suguru Yamaguchi left us. Suguru started his career as a researcher of the internet when he was 20 years old with a group of researchers and engineers led by myself. We started the WIDE project together in 1988. Since then, he has been serving as a board member of WIDE project. His expertise on security on computer system moved him to starting the area of researches of cybersecurity. That time, we called network security, turned out to be a cybersecurity later. Suguru was a very strong pioneer to move technological challenges to the working system in the society. JP-CERT Coordination Center was one of such an institute he created. JP-CERT is a national CERT and networked with other CERTs around the world by global coordination such as FIRST. For CERT-related work, he was a founding member of APrIGF in 2002 and served as a board member of FIRST from 2011 to 2013. He also participated on establishment of CERT in Africa. His contribution to Asia also must be recognized. In 1996, he started to connect the university in Southeast Asia by satellite. This is called Asian Internet Interconnect Initiative, APrIGF, which is having its 20th anniversary on the 5th of September this year in Bandung, Indonesia, where the ITV is located, where he connected as a first university. Suguru was a man of challenge and creation. Not only he achieved starting up new systems, which have been serving core important roles of today's internet in the world, but also has he responsible on a sustainable operation of them. This cannot be achieved with a strong braveness and a leadership. He had them all. His fight against his incurable disease called multiple system atrophy started about 2 years ago. We shared his situation and we promised to fight against his disease and to pursue for some miracles together. He was too young for the disease. This makes him leave us in 2 years instead of 10 years of average lifetime of the disease. We all thank Suguru Yamaguchi for his tremendous contribution to the community and miss him very much. Thank you very much for sharing this opportunity to say goodbye to Suguru Yamaguchi.
Thank you to Mr. Jun Murai. This is in honor and commemoration of Dr. Suguru Yamaguchi. And now our next video, also in honor and commemoration of Dr. Suguru Yamaguchi, is from Izumi Aizu, also by video.
Suguru, you are no longer here with us on earth, but your soul and spirit, care and love are all here, our treasure forever. 10 years ago, you became the first Chief Information Security Officer of our government. You supported my global security policy research that time. I owe you a lot. You planted many seeds in Asia Pacific which became big trees and beautiful flowers, now growing and blossoming. You planted APrIGF, for example, nurtured it and worked all together with global peers. You helped to secure seed funding for APrIGF, around $500,000 US if your talk over many glasses of wine 10 years ago was true. We owe you a lot. You are truly the global leader of the internet. Let us have some more wines together. Please wait for us there, okay?
Okay, and this video is from Izumi Aizu in honor of Dr. Suguru Yamaguchi. Those two were by video, and now in honor of Dr. Suguru Yamaguchi in person, please join me in welcoming Dr. Kenny Huang to also honor Dr. Suguru Yamaguchi.
Good morning. My name is Kenny Huang, Executive Council member of APNIC and also APrIGF MSG committee members. I'm sorry, it should be a happy morning, but eventually we need to go through that same moment. I know Suguru Yamaguchi for quite a long time ago. When I see the young generation sit behind the stage, it reminds me that's where I met Suguru Yamaguchi about 20 years ago. And around 20 years ago, he was appointed to be the advisor to the Japanese government, and I was the address counsel of ICANN, and we started sharing information on cybersecurity related issue, especially how to enforce the policy in the public sector. And eventually, he felt very frustrated because in terms of Asian community culture, it's very difficult for outsider to push a certain policy to the public sector, especially push the policy into the government different department on cybersecurity. So we exchanged that kind of concept from time to time. Actually, we still make joke on how we enforce the policy inside the government itself. And when I know the news, Suguru Yamaguchi has a terrible disease about 5 years ago, I think it's more than 4 or 5 years ago, I was terrified and I asked him what kind of disease you have and what you're feeling right now. He told me he feels terrible and because the disease is almost incurable. So basically we discussed over about a week. I planned a trip to visit him. But unfortunately, I didn't make it because a lot of unprepared event was occupied whole schedule. So still until now, I still quite feel safe without the last chance to see him. And actually, as you see, Suguru Yamaguchi has a lot of honorable title in terms of he is a founder of APcert. He was the founder of JPcert, also the chief information officer in Japan government. But basically, from my point of view, he's just one of my friends, a very close friend. And because he traveled in the last few years, he traveled to Africa before he got a disease. He traveled to Africa quite often. And once again, he asked me whether I can go to Africa with him. And I just questioned, what for I need to go to Africa? And do you need to reimburse my treatment? He said, no, you got to pay by yourself. And I asked Suguru Yamaguchi, why are you doing stupid thing like this? He said, he was enforced by Professor Kim Nam-chong. So he told me he's just like a slave of Professor Kim Nam-chong. Professor Kim Nam-chong just keep asking him to doing something like that. And I explained to him, actually, I'm also a slave of Professor Kim Nam-chong too, because Kim Nam-chong keep asking me doing a lot of things, such as internationalized domain name. That made me as a co-author of IFC 3741, and that's the first IFC published from Asia community, CJK community. So actually, I and Suguru Yamaguchi share a lot of very strange experience together. So under the umbrella of Professor Kim Nam-chong, so let's make our relation especially even closer. So I encourage for the young generation sit behind the stage. That's your best chance to know each other. Your friendship can be last forever. So you try to keep this opportunity to know each other. And probably that will be your best friend in your life. So at this moment, I would like to share this moment with, take this opportunity for you. Let's memorize our best friend, Suguru Yamaguchi, and make it in peace. And we will meet sometime in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kenny Huang. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Kenny Huang. Please be seated. And now also to honor our Suguru Yamaguchi, Dr. Suguru Yamaguchi, please join me in welcoming our CEO of NII, Mr. Guo Wei-wu, also in honor of Dr. Suguru Yamaguchi.
Yamaguchi is a very good friend of mine. Actually, every time when I meet him, he always call me in Japanese. He say, Sensei. Actually, he is a much better technical professional than I do. But he still call me sensei. Sensei in Japanese, in English, is kind of a senpai. He's a pioneer. And I invite him to Taiwan twice. I still remember the last time I invite him to Taiwan to give a talk, particularly for the cloud computing. And when end of the conference, and we walk around the city of Taipei, and you see a Japanese hotel chain called Okura Hotel. And he say, next time I come to Taipei, not for meeting, it's for vacation with my father. But this never happened because just after he back to Japan, 2 months later, he find the disease and he never can make the trip anymore. He did a lot, not only in Asia, over globally, particularly in Africa, And I remember I know him actually back to 1996, his very early day, the first APrIGF meeting in Singapore. To be honest, at the first time, we are fighting. I fight with the school regarding our view of the internet. But it turned out we are very good friends. So don't worry about you fighting others, because after the fighting, you really know the person well. So let's make him peace in heaven and make him spirit forever. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Goeu, our CEO of NII, Enterprise Promotion Association. Thank you for honoring our Dr. Suguru Yamaguchi. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't mind, can I ask you to give one more round of applause to our very own Dr. Suguru Yamaguchi, a true internet leader for all of us, and of course, a role model. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now moving on to our keynote speech. We have two keynote speech for this morning. Keynote speech number 1, the theme of which is the next 10 years Internet Governance Forum, IGF, as a bridge between two worlds. Please join me in welcoming our speaker, Mr. Marcus Coomer, from the board of ICANN, Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Number. With our applause, please. He's an independent consultant specialized in internet governance and policy, and was Internet Society's Senior Vice President. And he worked for the United Nations before as the Executive Coordinator of Working Group on Internet Governance and as the Secretariat supporting Internet Governance. Our applause for Mr. Marcus Coomer.
Thank you very much for this warm welcome. It is not easy to speak after these moving tributes, but nevertheless, it gives me great pleasure to be here with you. In Taipei, I attended the first Asia-Pacific Regional IGF 6 years ago in Hong Kong, and it is fantastic to see how this has grown. When we started the IGF, we did not think about this spread of national and regional IGF initiatives, and by now they have spread all over the world in every continent. It is really, truly amazing. Let me also start with a short disclaimer. Yes, I'm listed as a board member of the ICANN board. I am a board member. There are several of us here, but I'm not speaking in this quality. I'm speaking in my personal capacity as someone who has been associated with the IGF since the beginning and who stays associated. I'm also the secretary of the IGF Support Association. We co-sponsored this event. We are not listed because for some reason there was some hiccup with the transfer of the funding, but the funds will arrive, I can assure the local organizers. And at the same time, I also invite you to join the association as a member. It shows the broad support the IGF enjoys, and it is here to collect funds to support the regional, national IGFs, but also to support the global IGF. Okay, much better. Yeah, just a brief slide on the content of my presentation, and I will not speak about the IANA transition that has already been mentioned. This is, of course, a key element in internet governance, but there will be other sessions, and I will focus more on the IGF, give some background and context. And I was asked to speak about the future of the IGF, but in order to understand and to predict the future, you have to understand the past, and I will talk about the past, the first 10 years and the renewal, and then I'll try and give an outlook. I can be quick on some of these slides. We all know where the history of the internet comes from. But a quick reminder that the internet first surfaced sort of as a political issue during the World Summit on the Information Society by now 13, 14 years ago. And there it was on the one hand the recognition by governments that the internet now is something important, something they have to care about. But at the same time, it also showed that there are two different approaches. There's on the one hand the very structured world of governments, and on the other hand the world of the internet and the internet community, and that was a clash between two visions of the world. The world, I think all participants here in this room know, the bottom-up world of the internet versus the world of the classical intergovernmental cooperation. Now, we all know that the internet is different. It's built on very libertarian and democratic axioms. It was developed outside the world of governments, and its distributed governance model is adapted also to the underlying distributed technology. It is based on voluntary cooperation with bottom-up decision-making processes. And this naturally clashes with the international order as we know it, which is based on the Westphalian model of nation states and the UN Charter. Now, we have seen in the past 15 years that some governments are comfortable with this new world, whereas others don't feel comfortable and would like the internet to respect national sovereignty. And this goes back to the 90s, where we had two approaches. One was hands-off approach, that was OECD, WTO, and the other one was more classical, UN-like, and that led us to the World Summit on the Information Society. And that was totally in line with how the global community deals with global issues. You have a summit, you try to define targets and come to solutions. And WSIS was held in two phases. The first phase in Geneva in 2003, and there they found it difficult, governments, to come to grips, to come with the internet and internet governance. And a solution to that was they created a working group on internet governance, and I'm pleased to recognize two members of this working group, Professor Peng Hua from Singapore and Masaki Samasaki from Japan. They were members of the group, and they're also here present. And also the Geneva Declaration created the notion of internet, of multi-stakeholder governance. The next phase of WSIS in Tunis was very much influenced by the working group on internet governance and the WIGIG methodology. It was more open and inclusive and bottom-up, and governments by and large endorsed the report, and they recognized that existing arrangements have worked well, but they also recognized that there was room for improvement, and they created a new forum for internet governance dialogue, the IGF. And they came up with a working definition on internet governance. It is here, you can read it. It's quite a complex definition. It's quite a mouthful. But what does it really mean? It clearly means it's more than just naming and addressing, and it relates to public policy issues related to the physical and logical infrastructure of the internet, and related to the use and abuse of the internet, and importantly, it is based on multi-stakeholder cooperation. The working group on internet governance have also come up with a rationale for the new forum, basically identifying a vacuum, that there was something missing and there was a need to create something where all stakeholders could discuss these issues. And the IGF, in many ways, served as a bridge between these two worlds. I had referred to the world of governments and the world of the internet community. It is a new kind of dialogue that had not taken place beforehand. And in that sense, the IGF is not a traditional UN process where governments discuss and negotiate resolution, but it is here to bring people together, people who would not normally meet under one roof, and it is not here to take decision. And this is by some perceived as a strength, where some others see that as a weakness. But over the years, the IGF has succeeded in creating trust among those who participate in the discussions, and it has also created a sense of community. In that sense, the IGF is indeed a bridge and also a synthesis between traditional governance processes of the UN and multi-stakeholder processes. It is a bridge between the top-down and the bottom-up approaches. It has, on the one hand, the legitimacy of a UN process. It is a platform that is convened by the Secretary General of the UN, and that gives comfort to many governments who would feel reluctant to attend a meeting of the internet community. But at the same time, it has the credibility of a multi-stakeholder process. All stakeholders who have a stake in the internet, be that a financial business stake or a technological stake, are there, and they can participate in the discussion. And we have experts on all these issues, be they technical, societal, political, economic, and that gives credibility to the discussions. As I said, the IGF is not a traditional UN process, and as such, it is not funded through the UN regular budget. This makes it difficult on one hand, because the secretariat of the IGF has to go around and ask for money. But on the other hand, it also has positive aspects. It gives it more freedom to be innovative and to experiment with new procedures than it would be if it were part of the UN structures and would have to follow UN procedures right from A to Z. But it is a disadvantage in terms of uncertainty of funding. You never know whether enough money will come in to make it possible to go forward. But important to know that the annual meeting, not unlike the Asia-Pacific Regional IGF, is funded by the hosts who spend a lot of energy and financial efforts in making this possible. And again, the IGF-SA, the IGF Support Association, has been set up to provide also the possibility to collect small contributions. If thousands of people give each $20 or $100, it also adds up. And that was one of the reasons why we set up this association. And thanks also to APrIGF for giving a contribution to the IGF-SA. Now, the IGF mandate is set out in the Tunis agenda, and it's clearly a mandate. The key paragraph is discuss public policy issues related to key elements of internet governance. And that shows it's a platform for dialogue, not a decision-making organization. What is it all about? It provides a space for a structured policy dialogue on internet-related public policy issues. It provides a platform for sharing best practices, and it provides a neutral meeting place for all relevant institutions, be they intergovernmental organizations or be that the internet institutions such as ICANN, such as the RIRs. And by providing that space, it helps build trust and confidence among internet users. The methodology is based on exchange of information, on sharing of best practices, think globally, act locally, the recognition that no one-size-fits-all solution, and that solutions need to be adapted to the needs of each country. And the debate so far has shown that it is a multidimensional debate. There are several dimensions. There's an issue of polity, what I mentioned before, the government-led top-down approach versus the multi-stakeholder bottom-up. There is the geopolitical debate, the role of one dominant superpower, and that in essence refers to the role of the United States and the contract the United States had about IANA, and this is hopefully now to go away with the IANA transition. There's a developmental aspect, the digital divide. Not everybody has access to the internet yet. There are economic aspects. Many countries see a perceived loss of telco revenues, and also they see the dominance of big multinational players, and we will hear from one of them just after me. And there are technological issues, circuit switching versus packet switching. We have seen, for instance, in conferences that some governments would like to apply the technology they know from telcos, the circuit switching, to the internet, to the packet switching. And last but not least, there's also a cultural dimension, dominance of one language and culture versus cultural and linguistic diversity. And here kudos to the actors here in the Asia-Pacific region for having worked very hard to make the internet a truly multilingual internet. Now, the Internet Governance Forum can be seen as an experiment. It is based on the convening power of the UN. It is a soft governance approach. The IGF has no decision-making power. It has no power of redistribution, like a national parliament that can say, we take the money from the rich and give it to the poor. The IGF has no such power, but it has the power of recognition. It can identify issues of concern. It can draw attention to an issue. It can put an issue on the agenda of international cooperation, and thus it can shape public opinion and policy making. Now, there are different views on strengths and weaknesses. There has also always been a complaint that the IGF is nothing but a talking shop. They see the lack of decision-making power as a weakness, and they would like to see tangible outputs, whereas others see precisely that as a strength because there's no pressure to make decisions. That provides a space where people can have a free and open discussion without being afraid that what they say today may be held against them tomorrow. And there are also different interpretations of the IGF mandate. There is a sub-paragraph where it says that the IGF can make recommendation, but there's a caveat there. It says where appropriate. This is language that was negotiated by diplomats, and meaning of where appropriate in diplomatic speak is never or only over my dead body, because somebody can always say, no, it's not appropriate. But other stakeholders who are not used to the nuances of diplomacy saw that as a clear recommendation for the IGF to come up with tangible outcomes. And this played up in the first renewal of the IGF mandate, where this criticism came up. And the mandate was extended for another 5 years with a condition. There was a working group created to improve the IGF. That was a working group as part of the Commission on Science and Technology for Development. And they met many times in Geneva and came up with a report, which is actually very good, many good suggestions and suggestions to move towards a tangible outcome. The weakness of the report maybe is it did not look at how this could be implemented, as many recommendations are not resource neutral and would need staff to do it. But this is not unusual in the UN process. People have a good idea, and it's known in diplomatic circles as a Christmas tree approach. You take one decoration, add it to the tree, and add another one, and you don't really look how it all fits together. Now, nevertheless, there has been an evolution since 2010. The IGF clearly has evolved and matured. There is now an IGF community. Participants are more comfortable also to address delicate issues. For instance, surveillance was addressed in 2013 in the Bali meeting, and it was the first meeting the United States of America actually openly talked about this issue in an international conference. And also the IGF has developed intersessional activities. There are the best practice forums that have started in 2014. There are thematic streams such as Connecting the Next Billion, and the dynamic coalitions that have been with the IGF since the beginning now also work together to show what they have been doing. And of course, all the national and regional IGFs, they are a very important part of the whole picture. So the preliminary conclusion, the first 10 years confirmed the value, and it is a win-win situation for all stakeholders, that you can learn and you can shape developments. Now we have a new mandate, and that new mandate is for 10 years, from 2015 till 2025. This obviously is of great importance, as it gives more space to the IGF. It allows it also to develop multi-year work programs. It is easier to approach donors to secure funding, as we now have a well-established 10-year lifespan ahead of us. There was a retreat called by the United Nations just 2 weeks ago in Glen Cove near New York. There was a nomination process. Stakeholders could nominate representatives, and a few people were also invited due to their personal connection. I had the pleasure of being part of the group, and the report is now available on the IGF website, and stakeholders are invited to comment. There will be an official public consultation, and it confirmed very much the general thrust of what was in the CSTD working group, and there is clearly appetite to move towards more intersessional activities and a multi-year work program, and also there is a need to closer link the IGF to other relevant organizations. And since the setting up of the IGF, now we also have the Sustainable Development Goals, and the community feels the IGF should be closer aligned to that. The retreat also made the distinction, while we all understand what the tangible outputs are, and there have always been some, such as a chairman's summary, and now we have reports of best practice forums and the reports of Connecting the Next Billion, but we should not overlook that there have also been intangible outputs. That is education, that you can inform yourself. There were people who went to sessions on internet exchange points and went home and set up an internet exchange point. There's capacity, that's part of capacity building, networking, marketing. All these intangible outputs are equally important. Now, the role of the IGF, again, it's important to recall that while it has no decision-making power, but it has decision-shaping power. It can shape the decisions of those who have the power to change the internet. Now, IGF beyond 2025, will there be a need to go beyond that? Will all the issues the IGF is dealing with have been solved by then? Or will there be a need for a new super internet organization with decision-making powers? Maybe not. I don't think that there will be any agreement to set up a new organization with strong powers, as There are existing organizations for all of these issues, but there is a need for having an interaction, and the IGF has provided that platform. And one thing we know for sure, the internet in 10 years' time will not be the same anymore, as the internet is not the same now as it was 10 years ago. So my humble prediction is that there will be a continued need for multi-stakeholder dialogue, be that in the IGF or on a different platform. And ultimately, these discussions about the future of the IGF are part of the debate of what kind of internet we want. Do we want an internet that is open, global, and interoperable, based on innovation without permission? These are some of the basic tenets. That means also, I think, what Vint Cerf alluded to in his video message. Do we accept the risks that come with an open internet, or do we want an internet that is above all secure and respects national borders? And with that question, I thank you for your attention, and I think I kept more or less to my time limit. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. To Mr. Marcus Kumar, thank you for your sharing. Please be seated. And that is the future of internet from our keynote 1. And moving on, keynote 2, the theme of which is Internet for Everyone, Asia Digital Leadership and the Importance of the Multi-Stakeholder Model. Please welcome our keynote speaker, Ms. Susan Pointer, Head of the Public Policy and Government Relations, Asia Pacific Google Inc. She's the Senior Director and leads the company's public policy and government relations for Asia Pacific. And before Google, she was head of the international public policy for global e-commerce company Amazon.com. Please join me in welcoming once again, Ms. Susan Pointer.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the introduction. I'm very conscious that I sit between this forum and the vibrancy of the working groups, and I'm sure you're all very keen to get to those. I come here, as was said, in my Google capacity, but also I've worked in a national parliament, in a regional parliament, for industry associations, and for various companies in the private sector. So I have a huge amount of respect for the diversity of expertise and the roles and the responsibilities that you have here in the room today. It's a real honor to be here in Taipei today, and thank you for the introduction to address the room, a room that brings together such a rich cross-section of the voices of the internet in Asia and from around the world, and with more people I know joining us remotely by the very same wonders of that technology. No doubt, we come from many different countries, cultures, experiences, and backgrounds. But also, I believe we all share a common passion for and interest in the future of the internet, an internet for all and an internet for good. This is, I believe, the 7th gathering of the Regional Asia-Pacific Internet Governance Forum, and I think that's a tribute in itself to the importance and value of this event and of all the discussion that takes place in and around this forum. And I emphasize whether that discussion takes place in panels, on this stage, or more socially, around the edges. We believe very strongly at Google in the concept of expertise and knowledge at the edges, and by implication, the inevitable limits of over-centralization and formalization. And so have always appreciated the IGF's approach, and in that sense, both the formal and informal debates that will no doubt take place here in Taipei this week. This notion, as was mentioned earlier, of distributed expertise. Indeed, it was this same combination of decentralization combined with togetherness that made the internet what it is today and that continue to shape its path and its direction of travel. As everyone in this room will know, the internet has been built from the bottom up and built upon by many contributors. It is developers, civil society, technologists from governments and private sector, businesses of all sizes, and most importantly, the billions of users who have created and developed the web as we know it. Evolutionary or revolutionary, either way, it's not an exaggeration to say that the internet has fundamentally changed the world and is continuing to do so. It's reshaping economies and societies, and at core, bringing information about everything to everyone with access, and allowing those same people with access to contribute to that same global knowledge platform and that creativity resource. And when I say many people, obviously there's still a lot more to do to ensure that access is something that is available to all. And we all in this room have a very important role to play in that. Mobile internet, as my colleague Vint Cerf mentioned, is a key enabler to this. And there is a lot of work going on globally to experiment with alternative means of providing connectivity. Let's take a moment to look at the impact of the internet in Asia. I'm based in Hong Kong. I've been in Asia for the last 3.5 years. In Asia, we see very clearly the transformative power of the internet, and increasingly Asia is leading the way in which the internet is being used across the world, particularly in mobile use and use cases. This is an area where the region is setting new trends for the world. I've lived across Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and as I said, more recently in Asia Pacific. And APAC is a great example of how rapidly the internet is expanding and impacting, and hopefully for good, the lives of people across the region and elsewhere. There's no doubt in my mind that the internet's global center is moving east and south. Asia Pacific is driving not only a mobile-first region, but in many cases a mobile-only region. More people are coming online for the first time in Asia than anywhere else, and they are doing it through a mobile device. For these billions of people, a smartphone isn't a phone, it's their first and only computer, a key point of access to information, knowledge, and culture for consumers, and an office for a new generation of entrepreneurs. Indeed, in many Asian countries, mobile is the only connected device users may have. Incumbent technologies and ways of thinking, typically based around a Western desktop model, are less likely to determine today's parameters here, let alone those of the future. Recent research by Oxford Economics shows that by 2020, the mobile internet will contribute around $580 billion to GDP and lead to the creation of 1 million new jobs in Southeast Asia alone. This is very much an Asian-led mobile-first revolution. Each year, we do a survey of how people use the internet around the world. It's called the Consumer Barometer. The latest report shows that in 2015, Asia widened its lead over the rest of the world as a mobile-first region. In fact, this region has 5 of the top 10 countries in the world when it comes to smartphone adoption, including Singapore, South Korea, Hong Kong. Furthermore, 11 of the 21 markets in the world where smartphone adoption is higher than PC adoption are located in Asia, including Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong. The survey also found that Malaysia has the highest use of messaging apps in the world, Singapore the second highest smartphone adoption, Korea has the highest rates of video watching on mobile, India and Japan became mobile-first search countries in 2013. Even 2 years later, only 8 other countries around the world have achieved the same thing. The mobile internet is transforming lives and equipping people with the means to participate in the direction this takes. So who are these netizens in Asia? An Indonesian farmer that uses the internet to check crop prices. An Indian entrepreneur that operates a software company serving people around the world. a Taiwanese restaurateur who depends on the web for online reservations and a full house, a group of individuals in India who created Safe City, a non-profit platform to crowdsource personal, anonymized stories of sexual harassment and abuse in public places, to break taboos and raise safety standards and awareness. On this 7th gathering, let me mention briefly 7 more examples of such internet-based vibrancy here in Asia Pacific. Daily lives changed and enhanced as a result of connectivity and information. There's Dia Jung, an Indonesian entrepreneur, and these are real cases, people we know. There's Dia Jung, an Indonesian entrepreneur, selling fashionable jihad headscarves online. She started a small business in 2011 and now has the largest Indonesian Muslim fashion e-commerce site. Her site and YouTube channel are visited by hundreds of thousands of people across Southeast Asia, Africa, Arab Emirates, and beyond. Dia Jung has used the internet to build financial independence and take Indonesia's fashion to the world. Or B, a young Vietnamese tailor operating out of a market stall in Hoi An. She uses WhatsApp to send customers images of new materials and designs. Thanks to the internet, she is now a global exporter with clients in Germany, Australia, and New Zealand. Take Indian cooking enthusiast Yaman Agarwal, started his video channel, Cooking Shooking, 2 years ago. At the age of 14, he now has thousands of subscribers and millions of views from around the world. This has also given him a voice, a media voice in India. My 4th example, Muslim Pro, an app created by a small Singapore startup 4 years ago, provides accurate prayer times based on the user's location and helps people find the direction of Mecca from wherever they are. This app has been downloaded more than 10 million times across more than 200 countries and translated into more than 15 languages. Technology can be a creative force, an integral part of culture formation in the 21st century, whether as a global export vehicle for pop culture, take Korea's K-pop, or as a tool to broaden awareness of centuries of offline cultural heritage among digital natives, or as a platform for today's expression and individuality. My 5th example, the Asian Civilizations Museum in Singapore, launched their mobile app 5 years ago, then the world's first museum app that combined augmented reality, location-based gaming, and interactive features to promote closer interaction between visitors and historic items. As a result, the museum was able to attract younger visitors and shake up perceptions by bringing this rich cultural heritage to young, mobile-attached fingertips in lively ways. The web has enormous power for dismantling social and physical barriers to content. And this region has extremely rich cultural heritage to share with the world. My 6th example, Digital Green, an Indian organization that uses a video hub to scale agricultural training. They partner with a variety of organizations and stakeholders to share knowledge on improved agricultural practices, as well as health and nutrition, and they use locally produced videos to do this. This approach was found to be 10 times more cost-effective, and the uptake of best practices 7 times higher compared with traditional services. Since their founding in 2008, as of June this year, they have reached over 1 million individuals across more than 13,000 villages in India, but also in parts of Africa. And they've used over 4,000 videos, online videos, to do this. And finally, my seventh example of this local but simultaneously global, real-world, people-centric power of the internet. A mobile app in Australia called Ask Izzy was built for homeless people to connect them with shelter, food, and other essential services. This sounds astonishing, but on any given night in Australia, I'm told that some 1 in 200 people are homeless. Even more astonishing, perhaps, is that 80% of those individuals have a smartphone. Usually prepay phones with no credit, but used in free Wi-Fi public locations. An organization, Info Exchange, created an app that gives these individuals information about more than 350,000 vital nearby services, such as shelter, food, employment resources, technology facilities, including, of course, Wi-Fi and charging station information. Internet access around the region remains a real problem, of course, and a challenge, but this will also drive new solutions and new innovations. People are increasingly accessing the internet through ever cheaper phones, and data prices continue to drop. And there are more and more programs around the region and around the world to extend the options for affordable internet access. In India, for example, at Google, we are working with Indian Railways and Railtel to expand Wi-Fi to 100 of the country's busiest stations before the end of this year. More than 10 million people pass through these stations every day. Internet availability is changing and changing quickly, but still perhaps not as fast as those in this room would like to see, particularly in terms of access. An internet for all relies on all being able to connect. This leads me to why forums like today's IGF meeting are so vital to ensuring the continued growth and positive impact of the internet. When we think about internet governance, it is crucial to ensure that the web remains universally open and global in reach, and that the decisions on its regulation and governance involve all the very many stakeholders who rely on it, shape it, are empowered by it, and collectively, in this decentralized way, own it. The IGF's greatest strength is its inclusive nature, a broad stakeholder approach which brings together industry experts, civil society representatives, academics, and government policymakers in an open, frank, and constructive dialogue. The internet is not for any one government or company or country or sector of society. It is for all, and governance policy should therefore promote the widest range of inclusive discussion and foster this dynamic interaction between all stakeholders involved. International and multi-stakeholder cooperation is vital for formulating effective and enabling policies that recognize this inherently global and cross-border nature of the web. This will help preserve the fundamental openness into the future, whilst also striking those careful and transparent balances between real and often competing public policy interests and objectives. In policy terms, we believe that we should be driving towards this flexible and enabling policy environment based on open, cross-border internet data flows so that the world and the whole world really can connect. And that it's backed up by a balanced and enabling intellectual property and copyright environment suitable for the digital age in which we work, in which we live, in which we play today. And that we take a big picture approach to policy formation that builds in the opportunities that this new technology offers us all, and not just the new challenges that it addresses. Most important of all, in the context of today's event, all stakeholders, be they governments, companies, or civil societies, need also to reach out to new users of the internet, particularly in the developing world and in the mobile-first and mobile-only world, to ensure that their decisions reflect the views and direction of travel of the full range of global participants and stakeholders, the full range of those interests and aspirations. Let me close by saying that it really is truly an honor to be here among people who care so passionately about the opportunities that this wonderful global technology platform can deliver, and who I know work really tirelessly to ensure that the potential becomes a reality and the challenges are thoughtfully addressed. Thank you for all that you do. I'm honored to be here, and I wish you very lively debates ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan Pointer. Thank you very much for your wonderful sharing. Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, moving on, I'm going to have to ask all of you to bring your personal belongings to the 4th floor, because that is where we're going to have the parallel sessions, room 401 and room 402. The refreshments are up there already right now, waiting for you. Okay? Thank you so much. Please bring your belongings, because we're going to rearrange the table settings for your lunch right here. This is room 201. Lunch will be here at 1 p.m., at which point you'll be finishing up your parallel sessions in room 401 and 402 already. Please bring your personal belongings, and we'll see you here at 1 p.m. for lunch. Right here, this is room 201. This is where you'll be having your lunch. They're going to be rearranging the tables and the chairs, so you must bring your personal belongings. Parallel sessions at 401 and 402, namely the 4th floor. Refreshments are already there. And for the youth IGF, please, the youth IGF, your refreshments are at room 203, namely 2nd floor, this floor. Youth IGF at room 203. Your refreshments are there. Oh, and one very important thing. At 5:30 today to 6:30, this will be the synthesis document discussion. That is at room 401. At the end of today and tomorrow, there will be a town hall session of synthesis document, which is an open microphone public session for all of the participants to contribute on your thoughts, okay? Again, at the end of today, at the end of tomorrow, 5:30 to 6:30 at room 401, there will be a town hall session of synthesis document, which is an open microphone public session for all participants to contribute on your thoughts. Thank you so much. Synthesis document session, end of today and tomorrow, 5:30, 6:30, room 401. This is a town hall session of synthesis document. This is an open microphone public session for all participants to contribute on your thoughts. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, please bring your personal belongings with you. This room will be rearranged. This is room 201. Tables and chairs will be rearranged for your lunch at 1 p.m. Right now, parallel session at room 401 and 402. Upstairs, 4th floor. Refreshments are already there. And for the youth IGF, you're going to have to go to room 203. Your refreshments are there. Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.